What is the smallest amount of power you've seen go to someone's head? Lunch line leaders in elementary school. The player that is chosen to be the banker in a game of Monopoly. When my sister was a teen at her very first job, she worked with a gal who won a means absolutely nothing award for setting the record for fastest DQ blizzard preparation, or what have you, as part of a company-wide contest. Honestly, it was ridiculously fast. She was featured in the newsletter and local newspaper, glorified by management, and had her store hang her award in the dining room for all to see. It went straight to her head. When people would come in, she'd tell them how much of an honor it would be for them to get one of her record-breaking confections. She insisted to management that it would only make sense if she was the ice cream trainer for all of the staff. Then, she decided that her only job during her shift was making soft serve orders, which basically meant the staff she trained never got enough practice to be effective. Meanwhile, everyone else is resentful because she doesn't do the register. She already cleaned her baby, the machine, and she would refuse to work shifts with no ice cream traffic. I have no idea how she got away with this, except that she was an actual DQ poster child, and it would be embarrassing, given her celebrity. Let's just say she was not well liked, and not only by the staff, but by the customers too. She frequently would stand idle when customers would come in and summon her coworkers to the front, yelling, "Counter." I said, "Counter." I saw this when I was a patron once, and she let the counter get about 5 customers deep before she reluctantly took over her place at the till. But that wasn't the worst of it. When a management position became open, she leapt at the opportunity and bragged how her accolades made her a shoo-in. All she needed was a few endorsements/references from the team. Nobody would back her. Predictably, she freaked. When a person loses perceived power, they begin to frantically attempt to control as many things that they can, like all their power is crumbling. My sister said it was glorious to watch, if only in hindsight. She got paranoid about the schedule and who she worked with, like everyone was a threat. She forged and posted a new schedule and tried to gaslight the manager into believing it was his own. From across the store, she saw a new employee approach the ice cream machine as she was bussing tables, a rarity, and all hell broke loose. Sister said she saw a flash of movement peripherally and all of a sudden Blizzard Girl was barreling toward her station and launching herself, steel style, over the counter. She hurt herself badly enough to bleed, but as she got up, she was yelling about how her co-workers were a bunch of bitches who couldn't cut it in a company competition. She stood up, marched over to the ice cream machine to confront the newbie, but slipped on her own blood and took the coworker out with her, shattering newbie's elbow in the process. 911 and management were called, and Blizzard Girl was hauled away, screaming about how sorry everyone would be when they realized how much talent they were squandering. Assault charges were brought, she was fired, and a TRO was granted. She eventually was bonded out and began to park a lawn chair on the lot near the store just far away enough to be legal, where she spent her time yelling obscenities and lamenting how the soft serve community was being robbed of her expertise. Our community garden. The self-appointed managers gave themselves 4 plots at the front, where the best sun is. Next thing, they say no compost cause nematodes. You must use the provided mulch, at a nominal fee of course. Next, no tomatoes or potatoes due to those phantasmic nematodes again. Next, they plow a walking path through my dad's plot, which I'm sure is unrelated to his ability to call them on their bullshit. It's like a reenactment of fucking Animal Farm. When I was in high school I manned the front desk at a tiny nautical museum that nobody ever visited. Everything inside was very outdated and boring. We would maybe get 2 or 3 old dudes a day. I worked 8-hour shifts, and it was mind-numbingly boring. The president of the museum, as well as the chairman of the board of directors, were both on huge power trips. For absolutely no reason. Nobody had ever heard of, or cared about this museum, and yet these 2 higher-ups thought they were the most important people in the world. One day the president of the museum came in the middle of my shift, and told me to stand up out of my desk chair. I did, and she took the chair away. "We won't have chairs anymore," she explained. "It makes you look lazy and inattentive to the guests." My coworkers and I would always stand up and interact with guests on the rare occasions that they came in. The following week I twisted my ankle pretty bad. I was able to walk around a little, but I knew standing for 8 hours was out of the question. I was supposed to work a couple days later, so I called the museum and politely told my manager that I had hurt my ankle and would be needing a chair when I came into work. She acted astonished, like this was a crazy request, and quickly put me on a conference call with herself, the president, and the chairman of the board. I explained the situation to them, and the chairman of the board, a grown man, said to me, "A 15-year-old girl, you shouldn't have twisted your ankle then. That was pretty damn stupid of you." Then he and the president proceeded to scold me about following the new museum policy, how they were in charge, etc. Essentially tooting their own horns and telling me how important and influential they were. Afterwards I sent them an email saying that I quit. Working in a pretty professional government office, when one day the director and all managers happened to be gone. We all have varied number of years at it, but the place can run without managers. A colleague that happened to have a few months on another colleague chortled around the office that he was the most senior analyst there. He proceeded to check in on all his team members to be sure they were on task, while he did nothing but stroke his ego. The next most senior analyst was promoted over him within weeks. Right out of high school I worked for a small police department as a crossing guard. Our uniform was an orange vest and an orange hat with a police patch on it. One of my coworkers took that patch to his head and thought he was a cop. He took the job way too seriously. He got fired after a couple months because he went off on some lady for crossing the street without his permission. I worked in a department store while I was studying, and one of the managers of my department was always on such a power trip. One night we had one of those after hours VIP shopper events. Store card holders were invited. She was insufferable that night, strutting around barking orders and treating us all like children. She came up to me before we opened and said that I wasn't allowed to leave the carpeted area around my point of sale, walking around the perimeter to hammer in her point. "So you're saying I can't walk on the tiles 3 meters away? What if there's an unattended customer like right there?" I asked. "No. We are going to be very busy, hard laps. People will be lined up at your register." Yeah, pretty much nobody showed up. It was the quietest shift I had ever worked. Nobody walked into my carpet prison all night. Myself and 2 mates went to a large music festival and we drove, so had to use the set-up car park. There were volunteers with glowing sticks showing which direction to go as they were filling the lines of parks in order. We were pretty stoned, and suddenly there was one guy taking it next level. He ran up to our car and told us to wait in a stern voice. Gets on his walkie-talkie John to base. "We got a white station wagon. Should I put them in Diori lot?" Bear in mind, there was nothing but open lines ahead. He gets no answer, so he jogs up ahead of us and starts waving his glow stick around like he was Doritian fighter jets on a carrier. We literally sat there laughing at this guy flailing his arms in an empty lot. So we pull in where he's motioning us to go, and he runs around the front and guides us with the glow stick to the inch how far to nose in. Then he stands there for a second, gives us the all clear to exit the car, and jogs off. This guy at work got promoted to the position of team lead, just one pay level higher than the rest of the team, and not even close to manager salary, and he immediately became such a condescending asshole. If somebody asks a question to anyone else on the team, he feels the need to jump in and answer it because he just has to show that he knows everything, even when he doesn't. Guy was named head cashier for a new cafe. Holy shit. Started telling some lady that no, the Caesar dressing didn't have raw egg. She asked him to check to be sure. He swore up and down. I stepped in and told the woman that yes, it did in fact have raw egg. "So sorry for the misunderstanding." I lied and said we just changed our recipe for his sake. Dude blows up on me and literally drags me by the arm to the kitchen to confront the chef. The chef confirms that yes, the Caesar has raw egg. Dude got me fired. Went to the owner the next day and made a whole tale of lies, including that I was sleeping with the chef and that I was lying to customers about ingredients. Dude was super laid back and chill before he was head cashier. Jesus Christ. Posted this before. I was renting a room at a 5-bedroom house during college and some local woman in her mid-30s ended up renting the master bedroom, which in her head made her master of the house. She tried to inspect every owner's room, would call our landlord daily to give updates on the house, only for the landlord to call a different tenant right afterwards and complain that she did not know why she was getting updates. Had the cable and internet put in her name, collected money from the housemates to pay for it, but never did. Started calling herself the house mom because she was the oldest and the only one not going to school. We assumed she was on some kind of drugs because she would come home at like 3 in the morning and reorganize our kitchen like twice a week. I can go on for hours. Bitch was crazy. TL. Doctor, having the master bedroom does not make you master of the house. A superintendent that was in charge of one of the national parks I worked at. So I was brand new there and broke my black lensed sunglasses while I was at the entrance station. So no biggie, I'll wear my red ones the next day. So I do. Apparently she came through and saw me wearing them and then told my supervisor I can't wear them. Fine, whatever, I'll drive 20+ miles at night to buy a single pair of fucking sunglasses. Next day she comes through and a little bit later there's a mass email out saying something along the lines of I don't want any employee who works directly with visitors to wear any kind of sunglasses. I was fucking pissed because she's making a big deal out of nothing. Visitors don't care. Employees don't care. But she cares for some fucking reason. I said to hell with it and continued wearing them as I was only working there for a month until I got a better gig at a different park. Seriously though, you stay in your office 100% of the fucking day, so you have no need for them. I'm outside at an entrance station where the sun is beaming in my eyes or it's reflecting off the car windows, and so I have a need for them. I'd say the majority of visitors had sunglasses on and could care less about me having them on. Why the fuck does it bother you so much that someone is wearing sunglasses outside? How dare they? Dumb bitch. I wouldn't call it a position of power, but the woman was in charge of my delicious snacks so. Anyways, I was at the Buc-ee's fudge counter with my little sister and she very politely asked the lady for her flavors. Please and thank you and all that. We are foreign and didn't grow up saying sir/ma'am and all that, but we are not without manners. Anyways, the lady behind the counter got really huffy and said, "Excuse me, could I please, ma'am?" And my sister and I sort of looked at each other confused and said, sorry?" I said, "It's please, ma'am." And we were just like, right. And walked off. Just incredibly weird that she wouldn't give us fudge for having different mannerisms.